Hello and welcome to this episode of the AM Supplier Insight, hosted by me, Tim Rose, the editor of Automotive Management. Now, I'm joined today by Alex Wolterton, who is Head of Remarketing Operations and Commercial Optimization at mfldirect. Alex has spent almost 2 decades keeping a close eye on the UK's used car market for mfldirect and Motability operations, as he oversees the remarketing of its defleeted stock. Now, I've got a few questions ready to draw out his insights into the major topics and trends he's seeing. Hi there, Alex. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks, Tim, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So I thought, Alex, to start off, so we've seen the used car market return to relatively normal patterns, although dealers are still having to compete hard for the right quality stock. From the data that you gather at mfldirect, have you noticed any particular trends in dealer demand, and what are they?
Yeah, Tim, I think you're right. It's really interesting because although this year we have seen a return of more normal kind of seasonal patterns, I think the used car market is still in relatively low supply, which means that dealers are, as you say, having to compete really hard for stock. And I think we're seeing dealers having to adapt their approach as a result. I think our data pulls out quite a lot of things, and of course there's kind of detail there as well. But we step back a little bit and we look at, are there some really high level trends? I think there's kind of 3 key themes that are starting to really stand out that reflect this type of market. I think firstly, dealers are increasingly using data to identify the cars that work best for them. On mfldirect, we're seeing increasing interaction rates with things like our preview listings and our vehicle descriptions. And for our fully inspected vehicles, we're seeing a lot of interaction with those kind of really full detailed inspection reports. And what this is allowing dealers to do, it means that for these data-led dealers, they're able to know exactly which cars work for them, and they can focus their efforts on securing those cars that work for them as soon as they go on sale. And it's this, I guess, increasing demand from dealers for data that is leading us to now start to look at how we can share more of our data and insights with the aim of providing kind of practical data and insights to give our dealers the edge and help them to buy well. I think, secondly, what we're seeing is dealers are broadening their search, and they're broadening their reach of the vehicles that they're looking at. Now, this is both in terms of the stock profile that dealers are now interested in, but also geographically. And I think now almost every single dealer on mfldirect both searches and purchases cars at a national level. And I think the third thing that we're seeing that kind of ties in to all of this is that our dealers are focusing their energies on securing stock. And as such, what they're looking to do is they're looking for ease and simplicity. And wherever possible, looking to minimize kind of unnecessary effort elsewhere. Now, a couple of bits that kind of really bring this to life are, for example, about 1 in 6 of the vehicles that are now sold on mfldirect come from one of our mfldirect recommendations, where actually we are recommending the vehicle to a dealer based on their purchase preferences. And what we also see is that dealers are looking to simplify the purchase of the vehicle in other ways. 80% of the vehicles that are purchased on mfldirect, the dealers are choosing to select our delivery service, which means that we take care of all the complexities and effort of the whole logistics process, arranging the moves, managing SLAs, etc., and really leaving the dealer to kind of focus on the bits where it can really add value for them.
Okay, fantastic. They're definitely getting that efficiency there then. One thing I've noticed though, Alex, In my experience with AM, franchise dealerships in particular have always had a lot of focus on the one owner retail quality car, but there's really still, they need to buy right from the wholesale sources to be able to retail those profitably. What do you see as the advantages to this focus, and where do you see the biggest opportunities for dealers?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest advantage to this focus has always been around trust and confidence. But I think probably in this increasingly kind of digital age that we live in, where businesses are living and dying by things like customer reviews and Trustpilot's scores, I think the dealers that are focusing on this type of stock, I think it is going to offer them a really big advantage. And I think kind of looking forward, it's also going to be a really big advantage now that the used market is moving into EVs. We know that retail customers, considering maybe their first ever used EV purchase, may have lots of questions, may have concerns on things like vehicle range and battery health. And I think, therefore, a focus on single owner, low mileage and dealer maintained stock will be a great advantage when selling these EVs. But beyond, I think, that retail transaction, I think these same advantages of trust and confidence can also extend for the dealer into the wholesale purchase, with this type of stock being much less likely to kind of come with any unwanted or costly surprises. I think especially where the provenance and the history of the car are really clear, and if that car is being sourced from a trusted source where the dealer can speak directly to the vendor.
Okay, absolutely. You mentioned the EVs there, but I'm interested in internal combustion engine cars as well, Alex. Do you see any major changes in dealer demand for ICE cars happening in the next couple of years, and why do you think that?
Oh, it's a good question. I think, I guess my personal view is that I think both retail demand is going to remain really strong for internal combustion engine cars, and therefore I think dealer demand will remain strong as well over the kind of the next few years. I think the challenge is going to be, however, that supply is going to start to contract over the coming years. And I think this will further increase that kind of intense competition that you talked about at the start of the conversation amongst dealers. And I think that what that will do is, as dealers will have to compete harder and harder for ICE vehicles, I think they'll probably move further into those key themes that I kind of talked about, being data led, having to broaden out the types of stock that they're willing to kind of retail out of with ICE, and looking at anything that can kind of minimize that effort. I think though, for me, the question's interesting when we kind of think, well, what about beyond the next couple of years? What does that mean? And I think for me, I think this is where that kind of really strong focus on ICE and ICE demand is going to get more challenging for dealers if they are focusing solely on ICE vehicles. As petrol and diesel supply is going to fall away much further, and the used market will be dominated by electric vehicles. So I think it's important for dealers not to wait too long to begin that move into EVs. Otherwise, I think they're going to really risk being left behind.
Absolutely. I think that will be steadily moving into an EV society, and they have to embrace that. I think the thing that strikes me, Alex, is the sticker price of new EVs is still high compared to ICE cars. And many franchise dealer groups tell AM they actually see used EVs as a really strong opportunity, given the lower price point. It makes it more accessible, I guess, for consumers. But again, the issue is buying that stock well. What would you say are the trends in used EVs that dealerships should be looking out for?
I think there are a few trends that they should be looking out for, and I think you kind of probably mentioned the most important one. I think price, trends in price are really important, but I think increasingly important, I think price relativity to the petrol and diesel models. We're seeing many of our used EVs on mfldirect now close to, and in some instances, if we think about, for example, Vauxhall Mokka or MG ZS, actually they're actually priced below their petrol equivalents on mfldirect. I think it offers some great opportunities, and I think as we've now also seen a kind of a real stabilization in EV prices this year, I think again that is a great opportunity for dealers looking to start their purchasing used EVs. I think if I was a dealer, and I think dealers should be, and I'm sure that they are, I think dealers should be looking at what their competition is doing as well. We are seeing really consistent growth now in the number of dealers that are now sourcing EVs as well as ICE vehicles from us on mfldirect. The number that are doing that having doubled, more than doubled in the last 12 months. And I think it's these dealers that are going to be building that knowledge and building that expertise that is going to really allow them to kind of steal a march, I think, on the rest of the business. But as I guess the EV market evolves and kind of new trends and new opportunities emerge, we will continue to share what practical kind of EV data and insights we can on mfldirect to really help our dealers navigate through this EV journey, because I think we genuinely want our dealers to succeed with EVs, and we want to do what we can to kind of help them to do that as well.
That's good to hear. I mean, with the transition the industry is going through, access to data and insight is just becoming more and more important for all dealers, really.
Yeah, very much so. I think I can only see that as a kind of a growing trend. Yeah,
absolutely. So now, I think it strikes me though, Alex, that there's a challenge for the industry now, in a way. Now the early adopters have moved into EVs, and we've seen some company car users moving into EVs thanks to the incentives. But the challenge surely for the industry now is winning over the mainstream motorist. What insights do you have in this area, and particularly any opportunities for dealers to be more successful with EVs in the years ahead?
Yeah, I think that to appeal to a mainstream motorist, EVs need to now really be seen as value for money, and they need to be seen as convenient. But I think they also need to still be seen as kind of desirable and great to drive. So I think that the dealers that can successfully convey this to their customers will be able to have great success with EVs. So I think it's going to be important to developing the knowledge and developing the experience in EVs for dealers, being able to explain things to their customers, like how to get the best out of maybe home charging and public charging, and really helping to customers to understand things like EV range and how to get the best out their EVs. But I think that what we're now seeing is, I think there are some real opportunities now to win over the mainstream motorist with EVs and used EVs, because we're seeing a much broader range of EVs now in the used market. Used EVs can definitely now offer great value for money, and with increasing ranges, I think that they can now actually offer great convenience great convenience too. So to bring this to life, about 3/4 of the EVs sold on mfldirect last month were actually priced under £20,000, and 80% of the EVs in the same month came with WLTP ranges of over 200 miles. And it's actually in this category of EVs where we're currently seeing the greatest demand. With that sub 20k category, EVs are currently, as we kind of sit here today, taking just 1.5 days to sell on mfldirect on average. And if we compare that to the kind of the broader range of vehicles on mfldirect of all fuel types, it's half of the typical. It's typically taking 3 days, so they're selling in half the time for that category of EVs. So I think that as the kind of the range of EVs available changes and broadens, I think now is a really great time for all dealers, and not just the kind of the franchise dealers, which I think have been the early adopters in this space, to really increase their focus on EVs.
Absolutely. I think something you mentioned there, Alex, about the kind of performance. It's not all about kind of the charging experience. It's the benefit of you and I working in this industry is we get to experience these, and the performance and the excitement around EVs. Actually, it's translating that to the mainstream motorist, because there feedback certainly to me from dealers is customers who experience them generally then go on to buy them. It's just getting those bums on seats, really.
Very, very much so. And I think for that mainstream motorist, at the moment they're getting their information from the media. And I think that it's a great topic for the media because it can polarize people and it can generate clicks. But what we've found and what I know from personal experience is that people have actually driven an EV. I think 9 times out of 10 are really impressed with them and really enjoy as well the driving experience that you get with an EV, and also all the other kind of the tech and all the other kind of features that these EVs come with. I think that just getting more people familiar with them, I think will really help to change the kind of the view of EVs in market for the mainstream motorist.
Absolutely, I agree completely. Fantastic, Alex. Thank you. I think we're going to have to wrap up now, I'm afraid. We've certainly had lots of thought-provoking insight from you and from the data available at mfldirect. Viewers, I hope that everybody watching this has got a lot of insight out of our discussion. Do please keep an eye on AM Online in the future for further insights into the industry and trends in the market. Thank you all for your time. Thanks again, Alex.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for having me.